that are part of our collective history, even as we affirm and celebrate the legacies that inspire us. We are here to support and celebrate one another and to renew ourselves with hope and new resolve. It's wonderful to see you all, both here in the Great Hall and online. If you're new or returning after a time away, welcome. Please feel free to fill out a welcome card, which if you're online, should be in the chat very soon. And if you're here in person, there are blue cards in the pews that you can fill out and we'll collect. Doing this allows us to put you on our email contact list, and then you'll get our newsletters and find out more about what's happening here. Thank you for those of you in person for wearing your masks. And we are asking that groups are 6 feet apart, so you might just want to check and make sure. Thank you all for doing that. After the service, we'll invite everybody who's here and anybody at home who's close enough to gather on the front lawn, where we'll have a sort of social hour. There'll be an activity inspired by one of the stories and just a chance to be together and talk and enjoy each other's company. There will also be a Zoom social hour for those of you on Zoom. And now we'll begin our service.
Give us thankful hearts in this season of Thanksgiving. May we be thankful for health and strength, for sun and rain and peace. Let us seize the day and the opportunity and strive for that greatness of spirit that measures life not by its disappointments, but by its possibilities. Let us remember that true gratitude and appreciation show themselves neither in independence nor satisfaction, but in passing the gift joyfully on in larger and better form. That is wisdom from W.E.B. Du Bois.
And for those of you that are here, if you'd like to rise in body or spirit and join me in our chalice lighting. Every one of us can be a blessing to the world. Every one of us can bring light. Every one of us can bring love. We light our chalice in gratitude for one another and for the blessings every person brings. And you are welcome to hum along if you're here quietly. And if you're at home, please sing as loud as you can to make up for the Great Hall. It's hymn number 1010, Oh, We Give Thanks. For many of us, one of the challenges of this past year and a half has been that we can't share food together. Sharing food is a way that we show our love, our support for each other, and also tell the story of who we are. I wonder what foods are important to you around this time of year, and what stories your friends and family tell about the foods that matter to you. My Aunt Ruth always insisted that we have creamed onions for Thanksgiving. No one knew really what creamed onions were or where that history came from, but somebody always volunteered to find a recipe and bring them. Last year around Thanksgiving, Maggie and I were fostering newborn twins, and people brought us their Thanksgiving leftovers. So we had this chance to taste so many different flavors of Thanksgiving, and I had no idea how different it could taste for different people. And we felt really nourished by different people and their traditions. I miss the potlucks in our social room downstairs. I miss having the spaghetti suppers that Arita mentioned last week in her reflection. There's something really powerful and transformative when a community comes together over food. There's something magical about the abundance that can happen when we offer food to each other. Thank you so much for those of you who brought non-perishable foods to donate today, or maybe a beloved family recipe to share with others. And our story this morning is about people very generously sharing food. It's called Thank You, Amu by Oge Mora. On the corner of First Street and Long Street, on the very top floor, Amu was cooking a thick red stew in a big fat pot for a nice evening meal. She seasoned and stirred it and took a small taste. What a delicious stew, Amu said. Tonight's dinner will surely be the best I've ever had. With that, Amu put down her spoon and went to read a book before supper. As the thick red stew simmered on the stove, its scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block, until, if you could all help me with this, there was a knock on her door. Thank you. Someone was at the door. When Amu opened it, she saw a little boy. Little boy, Amu exclaimed, what brings you to my home? I was playing with my race car down the hall when I smelled the most delicious smell, the little boy replied. What is it? Thick red stew. Stew, he sighed. That sure sounds yummy. Amu thought for a moment. She was saving her stew for dinner, but she had made quite a bit. It would not hurt to share. Would you like some? The little boy nodded. And so Amu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Amu, the little boy said, and went on his way. With that, Amu closed the door and went back to her book. As she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window. Maybe you can imagine it. And out the door, down the block, toward the street, and around the block, until, if you could help with some knocking, please. Someone was at the door. When Amu opened the door, this time she saw a police officer. Miss Police Officer, Amu exclaimed, what brings you to my home? I was on duty down the street when I smelled the most delicious smell, Miss Police Officer replied. What is it? Thick red stew. Ah, stew, she said, and her mouth watered. That sounds mighty tasty. Amu thought for a moment. There was still enough to share. Would you like some? The police officer nodded. Once again, Amu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Amu, the officer said, and went on her way. And so, for the second time, Amu closed the door and went back to her book. Sure enough, as she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block, until again someone was at Amu's door. This time, when she opened it, she saw a hot dog vendor. Mr. Hot Dog Vendor, Amu exclaimed, what brings you to my home? I was selling my hot dogs down the block when I smelled the most delicious smell. Mr. Hot Dog Vendor replied. What is it? Thick red stew. Ooh, stew. The vendor licked his lips. That sounds quite delectable. So Amu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Amu, the hot dog vendor said, and went on his way. Throughout the day, people from all across the neighborhood knocked on Amu's door. She fed a shop owner, a cab driver, a doctor, an actor, a lawyer, a dancer, a baker, an artist, a singer, an athlete, a bus driver, a construction worker. Even the mayor stopped by. Soon, the sky darkened, the streetlights brightened, and it was finally time for dinner. But when Amu opened her big fat pot of thick red stew for her nice evening meal, it was empty. Amu sniffled. There goes the best dinner I ever had. Sorry and blue, she sat at the table with her empty pot until... Who could that be? Amu wondered. When she opened the door, she saw the little boy, the police officer, the hot dog vendor, the shop owner, the cab driver, the doctor, the actor, the lawyer, the dancer, the baker. Why, everyone she fed today was at her door. I'm sorry, everyone, Amu sighed. My thick red stew's all gone. I have nothing left to share. The little boy tugged at Amu's sleeve. Don't worry, Amu. We're not here to ask. We are here to give. The police officer carried in a fresh salad. The mayor entered with a roast chicken. The baker brought a collection of sweet goodies. Even the little boy presented Amu with something special in a shiny red envelope. Everyone who had knocked on Amu's door that day squeezed inside her tiny apartment, and together they ate, danced, and celebrated. While Amu's big fat pot of thick red stew was empty, her heart was full of happiness and love. The dinner was the best she ever had. Thank you, Amu. And thank you all for helping with the story.
And now let's sing or hum or sing in our heads. We sing now together. It's hymn number 667.
Now together our song of thanksgiving.
to see so many of you here in the hall this morning, and to see so many of you also online. And we're going to try a little bit, something a little different for our greeting this morning. We're going to invite you to share something for which you are grateful. And we're going to do that. Jessica's going to be, who are you? Are you, who's one of those people who goes around?
Oh.
Mike Douglas. What?
Right.
Merv Griffin. Jessica is Merv Griffin. And she's going out in the audience to solicit what you are. Booker, could you follow her with the phone and
Which one do you want to use?
you can steal that one?
All
So
right.
people can see. And then we're also, if you're online, please put things that you're grateful for in the chat, and we'll read those as well. Who has some? Oh,
All right, we have a volunteer here.
Wow, Britt has something to share.
I'm grateful for the chance to sing, and I hope all of you can join us very, very soon.
Yay.
Do you want to do one, Janet?
I don't know. Might be above my pay grade. Amy Landau is grateful for today's sun. And Catherine for family and good health, family, friends, and community. Susie McCrae, family, woods, and water. Corky.
I'm grateful for a wonderful trip to see my grandchildren in San Francisco last week.
Wonderful. Yay. Mark Shodoff is grateful for the miracle of vaccines, and Nancy Cheevers for her booster shot. Daniel? What?
I'm thankful for being here, so it's because it's been so long.
Grateful for being here because it's been so long. Thank you, Daniel. Daniel Martinez is going to be in our story later. Jan Netler. Oh, over here, too. Hello back there.
Hi, Maya.
I'm grateful for the earth.
You're grateful for what, Maya?
The earth.
The earth. Grateful for the earth. Wonderful. Thank you. Kit. Special friends and family and Kat. Grateful for all the people who make these hybrid services possible. So am I, and there are many, many, many of us. Judy.
I am so grateful for CISA, for community-supported agriculture, to help our farmers keep on being able to wade through federal regulations in order to give us our wonderful local food.
Great. Thank you, Judy. Grateful for CISA. Jan, do you have something?
I'm very grateful for all the people in our community who have stepped up to help the new refugees in this area.
Grateful for everybody helping with refugees. Was there somebody over here? Well, I read. Grateful for the earth. Val says yes. Paula and I, Wally says, Paula and I are grateful to the congregation, for this congregation, and bless neighbors and comfort among the tragedies.
I'm thankful for the air.
Jasmine is thankful for the air. Thank you, Jasmine. Jillian has something to say. I'm not surprised.
I'm thankful for the trees.
For what?
The trees.
The trees. Oh, okay. It's hard to understand one another when we've got masks on.
I'm very grateful to be here, but I'm also very grateful to go home and see my parents on Tuesday.
Yay!
I'm grateful for my cat, and my dog, and my hamster, and not my bird.
And Ed Olmsted is grateful for Dancing with Dolphins, the Big Red Stew, all of you, and visiting grandchildren.
Booker, one more.
Gabriella.
Yeah. I'm grateful for my family, and this is going to be the first year we get to go back to New York for Thanksgiving and actually go to our cousin's house. So I'm thankful for vaccinations and that ability.
Grateful for vaccinations and being able to be with family. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Oh, 6 new messages. Grateful for Arita's food. Melissa Bollock says, grateful for all of you. friends near and far, Carolyn Sandell being part of a great welcoming community. Thank you all. Now what do we do? Oh, okay, and now Peg Johnson has a social justice minute for us.
Yes.
All right, oh.
Do it.
Good morning. I'm Peg Johnson, and this is a Social Justice Minute. Center for New Americans and Catholic Charities are local agencies with the mission to help immigrants and refugees to integrate into the community. They try to address basic human needs first, and then they work with people to develop the tools to address longer-term needs and goals like obtaining living wage jobs and supporting children at school. I work at Center for New Americans as the Enrollment and Assessment Coordinator, and I've been there for 20 plus years. And I want to tell you how important the work of both agencies is to support the new evacuees from Afghanistan. I also want to let you know how you could help. At my job, I read the following in an English language writing sample that a man recently provided. He wrote, "I need to learn English and get a job so I can support my family." On Wednesday, a man who recently arrived from Afghanistan, who now lives in Holyoke, said, "I have 17 family members still in Afghanistan and there's no money. I need a job." Some of you have already joined Catholic Charities Circles of Care to support individuals or a family to adjust to life in the United States. These volunteers provide the assistance in almost every way possible. There are other ways you also could aid these newest members of our community. Do you have an apartment or an in-law suite that you could rent to the newcomers? Can you donate an extra coat, pair of boots, or other winter wear? Kids' stuff is especially needed. We have a collection box now in the side entry of the society building to gather these items if you can spare anything. Are you interested in joining a circle of care through Catholic Charities or becoming a volunteer at Center for New Americans to help be a language tutor? Do you have an iPad at home collecting dust that you would like to donate so students can connect to the online English classes? Do you want to give a financial donation to support these organizations? We will provide links in the chat. So if you're interested in any of these opportunities, you can learn more. Also, you could reach out to me too, if you'd like to hear directly from me, that would be great. Thank you so much for supporting our new neighbors. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Peg. Thank you, Peg. Today is a celebration of generosity and gratitude, and your generosity in offering time and effort and financial support makes everything we do possible. And the money that you donate specifically for our Sunday offerings helps us support organizations and movements in the greater community, one of which is Catholic Charities. I got a letter from Lynn Medoff just this week, who's a member of the congregation, talking about her experience in the Circle of Care that was a collaboration between people in this congregation and the people in, what's the name of that? Used to be Hospital Hill, I think of it as Hospital Hill, so that community. And she encouraged us. She talked about how much being a circle of care is a long-term commitment, and it can be really frustrating and hard because what the people that the circles of care are supporting is frustrating and hard. But she also said it's very rewarding. So if there's anyone here who would like to think about actually starting up a circle of care from specifically within our congregation, you can send me a note or send Jessica a note or the office, and we may find people who want to do one just within the society, and then we can reach out for more help. But there's a huge need, as Peg has said. So half of the proceeds of every week's offering support our own budget, and half of them support these causes. You can mail in a check or donate online. And if you're here and you want to just leave money, you can do that. Either you can come up during the offertory as Stephen is playing for us and put your donation in the plate. And if you have one of these blue cards that you have filled out, you can put that in the plate. And if you brought food to donate to the Survival Center or snacks to share outside after the service, you can bring them up too. I hope we have a whole parade while Stephen is playing for us, and you can put them on the table with the cornucopia. Thank you. And now we'll listen to our offertory music.
Our meditation this morning is When Giving is All We Have by Alberto Rios. One river gives its journey to the next. We give because someone gave to us. We give because nobody gave to us. We give because giving has changed us. We give because giving could have changed us. We have been better for it. We have been wounded by it. Giving has many faces. It is loud and quiet, big though small, diamond in wood nails. Its story is old, the plot worn and the pages torn. But we read this book anyway, over and again. Giving is first and every time, hand to hand, mine to yours, yours to mine. You gave me blue and I gave you yellow. Together, we are simple green. You gave me what you did not have, and I gave you what I had to give. Together, we made something greater from the difference. Let's pause for a moment of silence.
When gratefully come
Some of you probably watched The Good Place, which is an award-winning comic fantasy story that follows several characters who are welcomed after their deaths to what at first seems a perfect place for happiness. There are frozen yogurt places everywhere. It's called The Good Place. And the show, this is what Wikipedia says about it, explores ethical and philosophical questions in a funny and engaging way. Initially, it's focused on a young woman named Eleanor who has figured out that she was sent to the good place by mistake, because she's really a horrible person. But she decides to hide her past and try to become a better person. In a surprise twist at the end of the first season, the characters discover that they are, sorry to spoil it if you haven't watched it, but it's got many seasons. They are not actually in the good place at all, but in a version of the other place where people are sent to be punished. So we're going to invite you to visit both places this morning as the residents are having their Thanksgiving meal. First, we're going to the bad place. We're sad to say we find the Martinez family. Here we see a beautiful room with rows of tables, all decorated with chrysanthemums and gourds. At every place there's a scrumptious Thanksgiving meal, but the people aren't eating. They're moaning, they're grumbling, they're complaining, they're being rude to each other. As we look more closely, we see that the only implement they have to eat with is a very long spoon. They aren't allowed to leave the table, and they aren't allowed to eat with their hands. But whenever they try to feed themselves with the spoon is so long that they can't reach their mouths. They sit there and they're breathing the aromas and staring at the sights of this amazing feast, and they are tortured by being unable to eat any of it. We'll leave this sorry sight now. Thank you, Martinez family. And we'll head to the good place, where the Madison O'Days are hanging out. They're a room that looks exactly like the one we just left, beautifully decorated with long tables, an amazing Thanksgiving meal on every plate. We watch as a woman fills her spoon with mashed potato and reaches the spoon across to the man sitting opposite her. He gratefully takes a delicious bite. And then he uses his long spoon to do the same for her. Turkey now or squash? She asks. They enjoy the meal and each other's company, as does everyone else around them. So that is an adaptation of a very old Confucian tale. Thank you, Madison O'Day family. And now we have a song from Ruby Cools, who is one of our teachers and a student at Mount Holyoke, and has been part of our congregation for the last several years while she's been at Mount Holyoke. Ruby is providing the audio, and here's the video right here.
Thank the earth for feeding my body. I thank the sun for warming my bones. I thank the trees for the air that I thank the earth for feeding my body. I thank the sun for warming my bones. I thank the trees for the air that I breathe, and I thank the water for nourishing my soul. I thank the earth for feeding my body. I thank the sun for warming my bones. I thank the trees for the air that I breathe, and I thank the water for nourishing my soul.
Thank you, Ruby, if you're listening. So it turns out Let's turn this back down.
It should be set. 10 minutes.
Did Dana fix it? Okay. I feel like saying pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. It turns out that the difference between the good and bad places does not have very much to do with their outer qualities. It turns out everyone's staying at the same resort. Thank you. What makes a difference is how people treat one another. And the story, which, as I said, is based on a very, very old tale from China, asks us to remember that we each have a part in creating the good and bad places and circumstances for one another. And we know that throughout history, people have made choices that have aimed at creating good places for others, and they've also made choices that have aimed at making good places for themselves at the expense of others. And increasingly, the Thanksgiving holiday, which is a celebration of family and gratitude and tradition, also reminds us of that fact because of its origins. UU Minister Marta Valentin wrote, "This year, let us forgive our ancestors for the real and true roots from which Thanksgiving emerged. We'll acknowledge the less than honorable circumstances that created the original table of abundance. Let us acknowledge and forgive each other. For how can we be truthfully grateful if we don't? We rise with you, Spirit of truth and justice, to stroll through all the many gardens of gratitude, inhaling the clear air of freedom attained through rough and tumble avenues of debate and destruction." It can feel very overwhelming if we let ourselves become immersed in the legacies of dispossession and oppression. The history is long, the problems are deep, and sometimes we can feel like it really is nothing we can do. But we have proved right here in this congregation over and over and over again that there are things we can do. We can do them on our own, and more powerfully, we do them together. Like Amu in the story, we look in our own pots and we say, there's enough here to share. We can feed one another literally and figuratively in body and in soul, and both are important. Some of you brought food today to donate to the Survival Center. Some of you, I'm guessing, are helping with a manna meal on Thanksgiving. Our youth group cooks once a month for the homeless shelter, and our young adult group is planning to make a meal for Cathedral in the Night, which is a homeless program Sunday night that's run in the city every week. And some of you are making donations for that meal as well. We own December 12th, so I think you saw that in the announcements, but if you want to make a meal or help prepare for December 12th, you do not have to be a young adult. You can do it at home and help with that. We can say always, I'll do what I can. Remembering Ronald Niebuhr, who said nothing worth doing is completed in our lifetime, and John Lewis, who said it's up to every generation to do its part. And we can hold in our hearts and minds that beautiful image from Alberto Rios. Every river gives its journey to the next. Every river gives its journey to the next. We do other things. We fight for climate justice locally, across the state, nationally, internationally. We show up at demonstrations, you show up at demonstrations. You join phone banks and postcard campaigns to offer hope and solidarity to those who are still fighting for citizen rights, for immigrants who want the right to live safely in this country, and for people of color who are legal citizens, but whose access to voting, decent education, and other kinds of privilege and opportunity is still systematically curtailed. We have to commit to keep learning the history, debunking the myths, trying to engage across our differences. And we can be like Amu as she happily anticipates her delicious supper of red stew, looking into her pot and saying, there's still plenty to share. In the bad place, Martinez people don't care about one another. Some are so selfish they'd rather go hungry than give someone else the pleasure of eating. Or they're so wrapped up in themselves that it doesn't even occur to them to think about cooperation, about a different way of being that would make things better for everyone. But in our version of the good place, people have turned the problem of the long spoons into an opportunity. They feed one another. They see possibility rather than frustration, and they trust those around them. So maybe they play a trick on one another every once in a while, but I'm sure it's all in good fun and no one goes hungry. So I invite you to join us on the front lawn right after the service for a very silly activity where, if you want, you can reenact the adventure of the spoons and share any food that has been brought, and we hope we will send you home with gratitude in your heart. And I'll return now to the words of W.E.B. Du Bois, with which we began the service. Let us be grateful in this season of Thanksgiving, thankful for health and strength, for sun and rain and peace. Let us seize the day and the opportunity and strive for that greatness of spirit that measures life not by its disappointments, but by its possibilities. Let us remember that true gratitude and appreciation show themselves in passing our gifts joyfully on. Let's sing together. Rise in body or spirit and sing in your heart or very, very softly in your mask, humming, "Come ye thankful people, come."
Come, ye thankful people, come, raise the song of harvest home. Fruits and crops are gathered in, safe before the storms begin. God's our maker will provide for our needs to be supplied. Come to God's own temple, come, raise a song of harvest home. All the world is but a field, given for a fruitful yield. Wheat and tares together sown, if for joy or sorrow grown. First the blade and then the ear, then the full corn shall appear. God of harvest, grant that we, wholesome grain and pure may be.
As the little boy says at the end of Thank You, Amu, we are not here to ask, we are here to give, and to be grateful, and to give thanks.
And now it is our tradition in this congregation to sing Over the River and Through the Wood as the end of our pre-Thanksgiving service. We do that in honor of the fact that Lydia Mariah Child was for a while a member of this congregation when she and her husband lived in Northampton. So please rise and join in the spirit of tradition and sing or hum over the river.
Over the river and through the wood to grandmother's house we go. The horse knows the way to carry the sleigh through the white and drifted snow. Over the river and through the wood to grandmother's house away. We would not stop for doll or top, for 'tis Thanksgiving Day. Over the river and through the wood, oh how the windows blow. It stings the toes and bites the nose as over the ground we go. Over the river and through the wood with a clear blue winter sky. The dogs go bark and the children hark as we go jingling by.